So hello guys, today we will talk about the India and China relationship and its historical perspective, how the relationship with the China evolved in the recent past. Because these days the relationship with China and India is transforming majorly. We are seeing a dramatic shift in the events that has been taking place in the past 3 months. So today we will talk about how the historical relationship between the India and China transformed in the past decades. Coming up from the first, we see that the Indian civilization and Chinese civilization is totally different. Our concept, that is the Indian civilization, is based upon the concept called Vasudeva Kudumbakam, which means that the world is one family. But contrary to this, the Chinese civilization is based on the concept, that is the word China itself has its origin from the word called Changwu, which means that it is a middle kingdom, it's a middle territory. Chinese consider themselves to be in the middle of the world, and everyone else is the peripheral region. So they treat the other countries, everyone is a peripheral zone, and themselves to be the center of the world. So they consider themselves as the world, and the other one is revolving around them. So this is the completely other opposite perspective to the Indian concept of the Vasudeva Kudumbakam, where we treat everyone as a single family. But Chinese consider themselves as a superior race, like they are at the middle of the world and everyone is revolving around them. So with these two different ideology remaining neighbors to each other, this power play and this total narrative between the China and India's power equation, that has been transforming. So in the recently after independence, we will see what are the relation with the China and how the things evolved. So in 1959, September 1959, China first time invaded the eastern sector. The eastern sector is called as the Arunachal Pradesh. So in that place, first invasion of the Chinese has been taken place. That was a minor incident and they withdraw very easily. This was the Chinese attempt to check the Indian response, like how we are reacting to the Chinese invasion. At that time, Nehru was the prime minister, and he ignored this incident as a small mishap, and considered, and he still proclaimed the same Indo Hindi Chini bye bye statement, and we failed to ignore the power of the dragon that is sleeping at the backyard. So the China looked forward towards the India, and in September 8, 1962, China first of all intruded into our Indian territory. This time is in the Ladakh region. So again we ignored the China. So this intrusion didn't brought much impact in our border and the military infrastructure upgradation and the planning. So this happened in September 8, 1962, and again in October 20, China invaded. In September 8, they intruded, and this time they invaded with their force. So you should know the difference between intrusion and invasion. If you know, just comment in the comment box. And in October 20, they invaded into our territory, and they have come up with the self-served 3-point proposal to the Indian government. This was rejected by the Indian government on October 24, 1962. So this provoked the China again. So again in November 14, China launched a major and a massive infiltration 100 kilometers into our Indian territory, both in the Ladakh region and in the eastern sector, that is in the Arunachal Pradesh region. So they come inside our Indian territory and occupied our positions and our patrol points in the Indian territory. So this we are completely unprepared for this event, and we didn't recognize this much impact China government, Chinese military going to have upon us. So but we are defeated because we couldn't go up and fight against the Chinese possession in the Ladakh and the eastern sector. So China in November 21 unilaterally proclaimed the ceasefire, and they unilaterally withdrawn from the position and towards the McMahon line. McMahon line is a border. It was a created border by the English between the China and the India. So the China considered McMahon Line as not the original border between India and China. Still, on the November 21, 1962, China withdraw to the north of the McMahon Line, and they called it as the line of actual control. Also, they withdrawn 20 kilometers deep into their territory. So they considered the line of actual control to be a demilitarized zone between the India and China. So this happened in 1962 November, but both the India and China officially recognized this border as a line of actual control on 1993. So it took some 20 years after this episode to recognize line of actual control as a border between the India and China. Situation is more or less peaceful after this episode, and there was no major shooting or any ceasefire violation between the India and China in this border area till the May 5, 2020. And China never claimed Galwan Valley as their territory. So they have no claims over the Galwan Valley. But in this May 5, Chinese army infiltrate into the Galwan Valley, and they took some possession in the Galwan Valley, Pangangzhou region. So how this narrative changed in the recent last 2 years? We need to go to the Wuhan dialogue that happened in April 21, 2018, where China and India agreed. This Wuhan episode happened after the Doklam crisis in 2017 in the Bhutan area. I will tell about the Doklam crisis in the next video. So today we will talk about this Wuhan dialogue that happened in April 28, 2018, where India and China come forward to establish a friendly relationship with each other, and they proposed the two major important points in the dialogue, which is the first is that we need to build a peace and tranquility at the border area, and the second is the confidence building measures. So this happened on Wuhan in 2018, and also for the next continuation to this Wuhan spirit is the Mahabalipuram summit, which we all know, that happened on October 12, 2019 in Mahabalipuram, where the irony is that in this Mahabalipuram summit they decided 2020 to be the year of cultural and people to people exchanges between India and China, but the reality is totally different. This is the Chinese idea where they say one and they do one. So this 2020 is supposed to be the year of people to people and cultural exchanges between the India and China, and this same was again reiterated on December 21, 2019 in the 22nd round of special representative talks between the India and China, where they come forward to step up their relationship further for the friendly relationship between each other. But the May 5, the first time the Chinese infiltration and they entered into the Indian territory, that has been happened. This happened further in June 15 and 16, 2020. They attacked the Indian soldiers, and our 20 soldiers got martyred, and the Chinese also died in the incident. And finally, in July 5, the national security advisors of the two countries come forward to have a talk, and they agreed for the de-escalation and demilitarization of the area. So this is the brief history of the India and China relationship in the past 4 to 5 decades. So at present we both agreed to de-escalate militarily, but we must slowly step up our relation with the China. We need to have trust in our relationship. We need to gather some trust in our ties, because these are the two major economic and the nuclear power in the Asian region, where a small skirmishes could even lead to a major scale war that could have a huge impact both in the Asia and the world. So we need to amicably solve the problem, and we need to, as said, have to establish the peace and tranquility in the border area. So the main thing is that we need to have some trust in our relationship, where our government, diplomatic channels, and people should come forward and to solve this issue amicably.